It is negative 15 degrees Celsius outside. Snow is on the ground, the wind is cutting through everything, and a Finnish parent walks to their balcony, sets their baby down in a pram, tucks them in, and goes back inside to have a cup of coffee. No, they did not forget the baby. That is the plan. And those babies sleep longer, deeper, and wake up healthier than babies kept in warm, temperature-controlled nurseries. Finland has been doing this for over 100 years. The question is not whether this is real. It clearly is. The question is why. What is happening inside a baby's brain and body when they are placed in cold, outdoor air to sleep? What does the research actually say? And what can parents everywhere, whether you live in Helsinki or Manila or Houston, take from this? By the end of this, you are going to feel slightly cheated by everything modern parenting culture has told you about keeping babies comfortable. Because comfort, it turns out, is not the same thing as health. The Finns figured that out before the rest of us were even asking the question. Before we go on, tell us where you're tuning in from. And if you're loving this story, subscribe, because tomorrow we have something extra special waiting for you. In Finland, Norway, Sweden, and Denmark, outdoor napping is not a fringe practice. It is not something a handful of adventurous parents do. It is the default. Daycares and kindergartens across these countries have outdoor napping areas where rows of prams sit lined up in the cold while children sleep inside them, sometimes for 2 to 3 hours, while staff are indoors doing other things. Photos of this go viral regularly because the rest of the world cannot believe what they are seeing. A parking lot full of sleeping babies outside a Finnish daycare in January looks, to anyone outside the Nordic region, like a scene from a film about very relaxed kidnappers. Inside Finland, it is Tuesday. Parents talk about outdoor napping the way other parents talk about white noise machines or blackout curtains. Pediatricians recommend it. Grandparents expect it. The infrastructure for it exists everywhere. Apartment buildings have balconies specifically designed for pram napping. Daycares have outdoor sleeping areas built into their architecture. The temperatures these babies are sleeping in are not mild. Regularly between -5 and -15 Celsius, sometimes colder. The babies are dressed in layers, covered in appropriate sleeping bags, placed in prams designed to protect from wind. But they are outside, in winter, asleep. When researchers from outside the Nordic region first started looking at this practice, the assumption was that it would come with health costs. Surely exposing infants to cold air regularly must result in more illness, more respiratory issues, some detectable negative outcome. What they found instead was the opposite. The human sleep system is thermally regulated. As the body prepares for sleep, core body temperature drops. This is not a side effect of sleep, it is part of the trigger for sleep. The drop in core temperature signals the brain to increase melatonin production, which deepens the sleep state and extends its duration. In a warm indoor environment, that process can be partially disrupted. The room is already warm, the baby is already warm. The thermal drop the brain is waiting for to deepen sleep is blunted. Sleep happens, but it is lighter, shorter, and more frequently interrupted. In cold outdoor air, the thermal regulation system works exactly as it evolved to work. Body heat is drawn away gently by the cooler environment, core temperature drops appropriately. Melatonin rises, sleep deepens, duration extends. A study by researchers at the University of Oulu in Finland found that children who napped outdoors in cold temperatures slept significantly longer than their indoor napping counterparts. The outdoor napping children slept on average about 30 minutes longer per nap. Over a week, that is hours of additional consolidated sleep the indoor napping children were simply not getting. And if you have been following any research on infant brain development in the last decade, you already know what those extra hours of sleep mean. Sleep for a baby is not rest, it is construction. During sleep, the infant brain consolidates memories formed during waking hours. It prunes neural connections that are not being used and strengthens the ones that are. Growth hormone is released in pulses during deep sleep phases. The immune system does some of its most important calibration work during sleep. The emotional regulatory circuits, the ones responsible for how your child will handle frustration, disappointment, and stress for the rest of their life, are literally being built during sleep. More sleep and deeper sleep means more of all of that. So when Finnish parents put their babies outside in the cold, they are not being eccentric. They are, whether they knew the mechanism or not, optimizing the single most important developmental process happening in their child's brain during the first years of life. Now, the thing everyone is actually worried about when they hear about outdoor napping in winter, getting sick. The assumption is so intuitive, it barely feels like an assumption. Cold air equals illness. Babies in cold air must get sick more. This is almost universally believed, and it is almost universally wrong. Colds are caused by viruses, not by temperature. You do not catch a cold from being cold. You catch a cold from a virus, and viruses spread more efficiently in warm, enclosed indoor spaces where people are breathing recirculated air, which is exactly where most babies in non-Nordic countries are spending all of their time. Fresh outdoor air, even cold outdoor air, has dramatically lower concentrations of airborne pathogens than indoor air. It has higher oxygen content. Cold temperature causes mild vasoconstriction in the nasal passages, which actually strengthens the mucosal lining's ability to filter and trap pathogens before they reach the lungs. The developing immune system, like the developing brain, is not built by being protected from challenge. It is built by encountering manageable challenges and adapting to them. Exposure to varied environmental conditions, including cold, activates the innate immune system in ways that warm, controlled environments do not. A study published in Acta Pediatrica looked at illness rates among children attending Nordic outdoor daycare programs compared to children in conventional indoor daycare settings. The outdoor children had measurably fewer sick days, not more, fewer. The children sleeping in prams in January were getting sick less often than the children kept warm and inside, because it directly challenges the entire protective logic behind how most parents in the modern world make decisions about their child's environment. The instinct to protect by controlling, by keeping warm, by eliminating exposure to the elements, that instinct is not always wrong. But in the case of immune system development, it may be actively counterproductive. Why does this feel so shocking to the rest of the world? Not because outdoor napping is objectively dangerous. The evidence clearly shows it is not. Because modern parenting culture in most Western and Westernized countries has built an entire architecture of assumptions around the idea that a baby's environment should be maximally controlled, maximally comfortable, and maximally protected from any variable that could theoretically cause discomfort. Temperature-controlled nurseries, white noise machines blocking out every natural sound, blackout curtains eliminating any variation in light, schedules designed to minimize disruption. Every product in the baby industry, and it is a massive industry, built around the promise of eliminating variables. There is a certain logic to it. Discomfort is hard to watch. A baby who seems uncomfortable feels like a problem to be solved. The market responded to that feeling by creating thousands of products that promise to solve it. But what if some of those variables a developing nervous system actually needs? The Finnish outdoor napping tradition is, at its core, a statement about trust. Trust that the baby's body knows how to adapt to the environment it was built for. Trust that managed challenge produces resilience rather than harm. Trust that the goal is not to eliminate every source of difficulty, but to ensure that difficulty is appropriate, manageable, and met with adequate support. Finnish parents are not indifferent to their babies. They are not neglectful. The pram is checked regularly, the baby is dressed appropriately, the setup is deliberate. But the operating assumption is different. The assumption is not the environment must be controlled to be safe. The assumption is my child can handle this, and it will make them stronger. The data consistently backs that assumption up. This is the part researchers were not initially looking for but kept finding anyway. When studies followed Nordic children who had been outdoor nappers through early childhood and into school age, something kept showing up alongside the physical health markers. These children showed higher levels of what developmental psychologists call frustration tolerance. They were more comfortable with discomfort. They adapted more readily to unexpected changes in environment. They had lower rates of anxiety symptoms in early childhood than comparative populations in countries where children were raised in more controlled indoor environments. Correlation is not causation, and there are obviously many variables between Finnish parenting culture and American parenting culture that could explain differences in anxiety outcomes. But the mechanism is coherent enough that researchers take it seriously. A nervous system that has been gently challenged from early life, one that has experienced cold and adapted, experienced the sensory variation of outdoor environments and calibrated to it, experienced the mild physiological stress of temperature fluctuation and regulated through it, builds different circuits than one that has lived its entire early existence in a carefully controlled 22-degree room. This connects directly to what researchers studying resilience in developing children have found consistently. The capacity to tolerate difficulty is not something children are born with fully formed. It is built through the repeated experience of encountering challenge, surviving it, and having the nervous system learn from that sequence that challenge is survivable, that discomfort ends, that the body can be trusted to adapt. Every time a Finnish baby sleeps outside in the cold and wakes up fine, some small version of that lesson is being inscribed in their nervous system, not consciously, not cognitively, but at the level of physiological pattern. The world is variable. I can handle variable. I am safe in the variation. That is one of the most important things a nervous system can learn. The answer is not simply go put your baby outside in the cold tonight and call it Finnish parenting. Context matters. Climate matters. The specific practices that work in Helsinki need to be adapted thoughtfully if you are in a different environment. There are genuine safety parameters. Temperatures below approximately -10 or 15 Celsius require specific equipment and clothing designed for infant outdoor sleep. High winds require windbreaks. Freezing rain is not appropriate for outdoor napping, regardless of preparation. But here is what you can actually take from this. Fresh air exposure during sleep is beneficial at a much wider range of temperatures than most parents assume. If you live somewhere with mild winters, a cool outdoor space, a porch, a garden, even a well-ventilated room with a genuinely open window, during a nap can improve sleep duration and quality in ways that your temperature-controlled nursery is not achieving. You do not need to be in Finland for cool air to improve your baby's sleep. The principle of managed environmental variation is worth taking seriously across more than just temperature. The modern instinct to control every variable in the baby's sleep environment, the sound, the light, the temperature, the texture, may be working against the kind of sensory calibration a developing nervous system benefits from. Some variation is not something to eliminate. It is something to allow. And perhaps most importantly, the Finnish approach is rooted in a different relationship with infant capability. Finnish parents trust that their babies can handle more than the modern parenting industry suggests. That trust is not recklessness. It is informed, culturally reinforced, research-supported confidence in infant adaptability. You do not have to move to Helsinki to practice it. You can start by questioning how much of your parenting anxiety is about genuine risk and how much of it is about the discomfort of watching your child encounter anything less than perfect conditions. Those are two very different things. Knowing the difference is the beginning of raising a child who can handle the world as it actually is. Finland consistently ranks among the happiest countries on earth. Its children perform exceptionally in educational outcomes. Its population shows strong markers of physical health and psychological resilience. And for over 100 years, its parents have been doing something that looks, from the outside, like leaving babies in the cold. Maybe the two things are not unrelated. Maybe a culture that trusts its children to sleep in the elements, that does not mistake discomfort for danger, is also a culture that produces adults who can navigate difficulty without falling apart. The world is cold sometimes. It is unpredictable. It does not maintain a steady 22 degrees with a white noise machine and blackout curtains. And the children who grow up with some small managed experience of that reality, who have been gently introduced to variation and found that their bodies could handle it, arrive slightly more prepared than the ones we try to protect from every uncomfortable thing. The Finns figured that out with a pram and a balcony. The science, a century later, is still catching up. That's our story. If you enjoyed it, hit like, subscribe, and turn on the bell. And tomorrow, more stories are waiting for you. Thanks for watching.